So when we uploaded my data into the cube, you opened up this pre-prepared report so we could check to see that my data actually got in there. How can I create a report like this?
Okay, so this is the final version, right? So I prepared here, and you would like to do this on the fly, ad hoc, on your data. The only thing you need is Excel with the Jedox Excel add-in, a new workbook. So I hit Control N for a new workbook, and I can go to Jedox menu here, and you see there's a menu item called View. So I can create a view on my data on this particular cube. So I have to hit the button, and I see the function called Paste View. So I'm now looking onto my database server. I can select from multiple databases. And we have created our Acme Data POC online database. And then I can choose a cube. Actually, the cube we have built just a moment ago. And when you select the sales data cube, the system shows you the current available dimensions in this particular cube. Now, the next step is I would like to show, I want to see data in my rows later of my ad hoc report and in the columns. So what I have to do is I have to select now one of my dimensions. I can grab them with the mouse. So I drag them now down to the row area, and I also take the next one, the measure dimension, for example, and drag it in the column area. And this is for the starting point. Perfect. Now I can paste this particular view, and there we are.
Okay.
I see now the data.
All right, so this is a really quick way to view my data. The stuff that looks nicer we'll work on later, but there's stuff in bold, and the one you had showed different products and things like that. What all functionality do I have here?
Yeah, so based on the bold, you identified this. Bold means a consolidated element, and something could be underneath. So our hierarchy, you remember, I can now double click, and the hierarchy expands. So the ad hoc report here is doing this dynamically. I can also go to bikes down and mountain bikes, and with a double click, I collapse the hierarchy. So I can navigate in more detail, like here also gross profit can expand and can collapse. When I take a look to my slicer or filter dimensions on top, the month, customer, channel, and version dimension, I have something underneath that is also bold. So it means double click, but this time nothing expands because wouldn't make sense here. But a dialog opens where I can choose now precisely a different slice in my cube. So I can navigate now down to a specific year, 2017. So I see now the data immediately retrieved by the OLAP database. And I can also go for a specific version. So I want to see the actual data only.
So I see underneath where you see the database and the cube and all that. What's that swap piece?
The little swap thingy here, you can double click and you can swap the axis. So if you want to see the data from a different point of view, you can swap them. You can also change this in the dialog. So I can do this manually, but easier is to use the swap symbol.
Okay, yeah, that's easy enough. But speaking of swapping, we have my products here being shown, but I would like to see my customers like that with more detail. How do I change that again?
Very easily. We go back into either edit view by double clicking this blue cell, or you can hit the big button view again. So both brings you back to the paste view options dialog, where we see the current definition of our ad hoc report. And I don't want to swap with the axis. You want to see customer in detail instead of the products. So I swap actually manually by dragging and dropping the dimensions here. So I have customers now in the row area, and I paste this, and there we are. So we can expand the customers like before, and now I see the same data, but from a different point of view. So actually it's a different slice.
Okay, I would like to see all of my customers that have bikes in the name. Can I filter for something like that?
Okay, so I see when you open Austria, you see all customers, and some of them have bikes in the name. So you want to minimize the view only on important information, or you want to see right now. So we go back to our edit view, and each dimension you see those little arrows here at the right side, means you can expand, and you have either a radio button with the information choose element. There could be more radio buttons here depending on features you use. But here I would like to choose specific elements. Like you said, bikes. So I have to double click on this little icon. And you see whatever I have expanded on my ad hoc view right now, it's highlighted in blue. So it's reflecting exactly my current selection. So what I have to do is I can either now select specific one. So like this. When I click OK, I get exactly the view here. So you can do the search and select by manually, or more convenient, your question. I want to search where bikes is part of the name. And you see I use the asterisk. And now I click search.
Okay.
And you see every element or customer element here where the term or the pattern bikes is available is highlighted in blue. So
Wait.
Yeah.
What's that arrow that's highlighted?
So you can collect multiple things here. So we call this the right side the pick list. I can move them to the right, so everything what I found, and I can search now for a different name, and can also move them to the right and can collect information. I can also reorder here different things, but for the question now, bikes, we have everything we need. We paste this now, and you see there are all the customer elements where bikes is in the name of the customer.
Okay. Is there any way to view things more specifically, like seeing my customers along with the sales channel they came in with, or?
Okay, I see. You mean in terms of nesting. So I want to see per customer how what was the best channel. And when we do this, why not also do a comparison across multiple months for each measure? So you go into more details. So again, we need the edit view. And you see the area where we have the row and the column, we have actually space for other dimensions. And this is exactly what we can do. So we can drag another dimension, and we call this now nesting. So in this case, we would have measures and months.
But I want my channel with my customers.
The channel. Yeah, let's do this also. So here. And let's go inside. We remember we changed this name.
So that was kind of a, in a way, translation.
Correct. There's a translation. And I would like to see all the channels expanded, so pre-expanded, per customer. And here in month, I can actually do the same. I don't want to see all the month. I want to precisely focus on 2017 Q1 and the 3 months. So when I paste this, we have now a much more detailed view. So you see for each customer where the term bikes is included, we see in detail how they performed per channel in a specific month of our 2017 quarter. And we have also the detailed measures, so we can compare measure per month. Now you have a lot of data here.
Yeah, but I have a lot of zeros. Is there any way to make this easier to kind of handle?
Right. So there are definitely areas where we have not sold anything. So this is real life, but the cube has all combinations available. We can go to the detail settings of our view, and you see there is a feature called suppress zeros. So when you hit this here, all zeros in one row or column will be dropped. So now we are focused only on values. Even if you see some zeros, then it means somewhere in the column or in the row, there's definitely a value unequal to 0. And now we're getting more details.
Can I also switch around so I can see, let's say, the quarter information on top with the measure information below it? Can I move that around too?
If this makes more sense for you, sure. So in this case, currently we see per measure all the 4 month elements, but now we want to see per month the measures. And maybe even here, to make it a little bit smaller, we can focus on quantity, sales, and cost of sales. Again, I use my control key on my keyboard to select only the information I would like to have. And then we paste this. And again, it's the same data, just a different view. So what we are doing is ad hoc browsing. So we try to figure out where do we have issues with the data or where are good data.
Okay. Could you go back to edit view to the month dimension? I saw here that there's this button more.
Okay.
What other options do I have down there?
Yeah. This more button gives you options for selections, right? The zero suppression is activated. So when you activate it on the global view option setting dialog here, it's also available here. And you can use these controls here for highlighting. So what I did with the control key, you can use these buttons here to highlight only elements on a specific level, or you can select all, or you can invert the selection, or you can select from a specific branch. And you remember we did the translation, and now I would like to see either the name.
Wait a minute, that was an attribute, wasn't it?
Exactly, yeah. We feeded the attribute in our first session where we created the model. And
but why is it called alias then?
Yeah, so instead of displaying the element name on the spreadsheet, on the ad hoc view, an alias will be displayed instead of the element name, and the alias can be fed by an attribute. So this is the link between whatever you have in the attribute will be taken as an alias instead of the element name.
Okay. Oh, I like that a lot nicer where I actually see the quarter and the months written out.
And you remember we talked about the internationalization. So this is the description attribute. We feed it. And currently I'm using the Excel add-in with the language English. So the system displays the English translation here. I can also change and make it a little bit more detailed. I can say, don't display only alias. You can also include, again, the original element name. So you have an alias and the element name side by side as a formatting option here. So when I paste this, you have a little bit more detail here. It's January, it's February, data is there.
Okay, and you said with the internationalization that since your Excel is an English version, that it shows the English version of the data. If I had, let's say, a German or a French version, then it would show the translation the system knows of, let's say, the months? Okay.
Yeah. So actually it's the Excel add-in language you set up. So even if you have an English or German Excel installed, you can always change the language of the Excel add-in itself. So in this case, you go to Options and you select a different language. You restart Excel, and then you have JADOX Excel add-in running in the different language, and this will be passed to the OLAP database and presents then, based on your database definition, the translations.
Okay, that was a really easy way to make a report quickly. Not the prettiest one, but
Not
it was
the prettiest
fast.
one, but the fastest one.